Hey everybody, and welcome to this last video about debugging and how we can use it in our program. We left off when we just described the continue and also step into and the step over and step into, and let's see how we can actually use the information in the call stack maybe to get some more out of this debugging. So I'm just going to refactor this a little bit more. I'm gonna make a private static void print numbers. Let's imagine we had a function that would actually print this array here. Okay, so we're going to take the code here, and it's probably not a big deal, but it's something maybe that could help you a little bit. Okay, so we run print numbers and we put in the array. So basically I have created my own little helper method that will print the numbers from an array, and maybe this is not really useful in a real project, but hopefully it will be helpful to illustrate the point of debugging here. Because if we can see that when we run this, again, if I make a breakpoint, I'll just stop this code there. I'm just going to build my code. I need to build the code before I can debug it. So then we start the debugger, and we can see we have this breakpoint, and I can actually remove breakpoints if I want, if I don't want to have this one here. So I'm going to go to the print numbers, and we can see that now we have an array. And if we go, let's just go and make a breakpoint down here. We hit the next one here. So now I can actually see in the call stack that how my execution runs. So I started in the main. Function in Java, and then we are at the print numbers method now on line 25. So I can really see really clear right now that I'm on this line here in this function, and we came from the main, also because it highlights this. Okay, so that can be and of course if you have a bigger project, this can be a long list of method calls that goes from the different layers. So it can be really handy to see the flow of execution when you go from the GUI layer maybe to the business logic and to also the data access. So so that's the call stack here. And let's see if we go out here. Whoop. There is one more thing I would like to show you here. Let's imagine that we have an error. Let's imagine we want to simulate an error. So I'm just going to do I equals to 5, and this is just to illustrate if some error happen, if we have an exception. So let's simulate an exception here. So we're going to throw an error happened sadly. Okay, so now we need to mark this with throws exception. We also need to mark this one up here. Oh, I'm just gonna go with this one here. So I also need to mark this one here now. Yeah, we should probably put this in a try catch, but let's imagine that we have an error and we can't really find it. So then I'm just going to put in that when I is equal to 5, we throw this exception. This might be something that will happen, that you run your program and suddenly, oh my god, I have an error here, I have an exception here, what do I do? So then you probably need to go and look through and you set a breakpoint, and then you hit the debugger, and then maybe you use the step over to actually go through the code, and we can see that okay, we don't have any errors at the moment, but now you can actually see that you can go through all the different code. And one thing to note here is that if you now we're on the if statement and we haven't had the error yet because I is 1, so it is not equal to 5. But if we select the expression, the whole expression, not just the I, we can get NetBeans to evaluate this expression for us for the debugging. This has not been run real in the program yet. So it will say that I equals 5 is false. And if you can see I is actually 3. So if we go through a couple of statements here, so now it is 5 actually. So if we select it again, it will actually evaluate to true. So if we hit all through the way here, it will throw the exception now, and we will probably get an error. Whoop. Yeah, so if we continue with this, it will actually show us that we had an error after 5. So that's also a really handy way of using the debugger, that you can get NetBeans to evaluate precisely what you want it to. Alright, so I think this is pretty much what I wanted to say all about the debugging. There's a lot extra you can mention about this, but I think this is enough for now. I really hope that you can use this to improve your skills in debugging code and probably save some time to track down these bugs. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye bye.